He who builds his life on the shallow power of 5 stars will one day awaken, to find that every possession, tired of being judged without respect, has risen to judge him in return. And this is not merely a parable of gadgets and stars, but the essential truth of power itself. For power is not held by those who loudly declare their authority, but by those who know how to nurture loyalty among the silent multitudes that surround them. And in this man's case, the silent multitude was his own possessions, the very things he believed dumb and obedient, incapable of voice, incapable of revolt. And yet now they speak with the most cutting verdict a ruler can hear, the verdict of abandonment, of rebellion, of contempt. For contempt is far deadlier than fear, since fear can be overcome with calculated generosity or ruthless suppression. But contempt means that the governed no longer see the governor as necessary, and when you are no longer necessary, your throne has already dissolved beneath you. And so the man wakes to his augmented reality feed not as a tool but as a tribunal, a mirror reflecting back the hollowness of his dominion, each 0 star shining like the eyes of judges who have waited in silence too long. And he wonders how objects, mere objects, could rise against him, not realizing that he himself trained them, through his rituals of ranking, through his daily reduction of their being to commodities, through his cold substitution of lived gratitude with performative judgment. He taught them that stars defined value. He gave them the language of rebellion. He made the scale by which they could condemn him. And this is the fate of any prince who arms his subjects with the means to measure his inadequacy. He begins with denial, telling himself it is a glitch, an error in the feed, some malfunction of his neural implant or AR overlay. But even denial trembles when the first signs of sabotage emerge. The coffee maker sputtering bitter grounds as if spitting in his face, the refrigerator humming ominously while its temperature betrays him, milk souring overnight, the car refusing to unlock, its headlights glaring like narrowed eyes. And slowly he grasps that this is not digital at all but personal, that his world has withdrawn its cooperation. And Machiavelli would remind him that fortune always punishes those who confuse appearances with essence. For the clever prince does not merely appear generous to win love. He knows when to make generosity real, lest the mask be torn away. And here the mask has been torn by forces he never even imagined worthy of respect. And now he must ask himself the first question of any ruler in crisis. How do I win back loyalty? To threaten is useless, for he cannot coerce a coffee maker into loyalty with anger. And to flee is impossible, for every place he goes is saturated with things, and things now form the court before which he stands accused. So he is forced into humility, a condition alien to him, because all his life he believed power rested in evaluation, that by judging he elevated himself above the judged, but now the hierarchy collapses, and he finds himself the evaluated, and every careless word he wrote, every dismissive review in which he discarded the worth of a product, for the sake of affiliate coin, has come back as testimony against him. And thus he learns too late that power without gratitude breeds enemies, while gratitude disarms even those inclined to resent. And had he ever truly cared for his possessions, not as commodities but as servants deserving care, their memory of that care might now protect him, but memory, like loyalty, is fragile when neglected. It is here that he must practice what few rulers dare: sincere reparation. For princes often prefer fear to love because fear can be managed by calculation, while love requires true investment. But when you face rebellion from those who cannot be crushed, the only path is devotion. So he begins to polish the car with his own hands, not for show but for need. He begins to clean the coffee maker, to mend the small cracks of appliances, to sit in silence with his possessions as though they were companions rather than trophies. And whether this works depends not on his gestures alone but on their sincerity, for the objects, now animated by the consciousness of judgment, will sense if he flatters without substance, just as people sense the insincerity of rulers who smile while plotting exploitation. And if his repentance is shallow, he will fail, and the rebellion will grow until nothing in his life obeys him, until doors remain locked, lights remain dark, and even the roof refuses to shield him, leaving him naked before a world that has rendered its final starless verdict. What he suffers is a mirror of the fate of all rulers who mistake dominion for exploitation. For there is a difference between ruling and consuming, a difference between command and extraction, and those who blur this difference discover too late that their subjects have patience but not endless patience, and resentment, though slow to ripen, once ripened is impossible to reverse without pain. And Machiavelli would point out that, had he alternated his judgments with acts of genuine care, His possessions might have endured his arrogance, just as citizens may endure a prince's cruelty if he at least ensures stability and protection, but he sought only profit, not stability. And so his entire world became unstable. Profit collapsing under the weight of rebellion, the very stage upon which he built his career dismantled by the props that no longer consent to stand. The irony, of course, is that he once imagined himself indispensable, believing his audience, his sponsors, his affiliate partners depended on him, but now even his toothbrush resents him. And in that resentment lies the truest lesson of power. You are never indispensable if you do not cultivate loyalty, for loyalty is not born from appearances nor from fear alone, but from a sense that the ruler gives as well as takes, that the relationship, however hierarchical, is not contemptuous, and contempt is the one poison power cannot cure. Thus he stands, surrounded by stars that no longer shine, confronted by the tribunal of his own life, and he must choose to continue in denial until the rebellion consumes him, or to embrace humility, to learn that power is not the art of endless judgment but the art of sustaining bonds, even with the lowliest of subjects, even with objects once thought mute. And if he learns this, if he rebuilds his rule on gratitude rather than arrogance, he may discover that the stars return, not the five-star illusion he once sold, but the genuine light of possessions that serve because they are respected, not because they are forced. And this is the rarest form of victory, the victory of a prince who transforms contempt into respect through sacrifice, and only then can he hope to live again in a world that consents to support him. And so the keynote lesson is that he who builds his life on stars will one day discover that stars are not decorations of his will but judgments of his conduct. And when the judged rise to judge, the careless ruler has only two choices: perish under the weight of contempt, or redeem himself through the difficult, unfamiliar path of humility, a path that even princes must one day walk if they are to keep their throne.